Yep.
some of your
Yeah,
requests.
that was, I mean, to get the,
And I think it is easy and to
Not to-
shot or
Can it wait till after? I mean, I've already set up.
yeah, when they brought out the two little kids that, they got killed down there, that was,
Well, you remember he was from the Blue Jackets
Yeah.
also too. And, him and his brother were killed.
yeah,
And,
when they brought us,
to take those two little kids and put them out there,
Yeah.
that was shocking.
yeah, that was.
And they're probably in Washington tonight too, the two kids.
Good.
That's cool. I haven't heard that, if he's got anybody from the Kings team that's coming out there.
Yeah, I don't know if you are or not.
Because I was also stunning too.
Yes.
Lindsey Vaughn was doing reincarnated mushrooms. Skiing with a knee replacement. One knee was replaced and the other one had and she got her.
Yeah. Yeah, and she ended up, yeah, she tough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I gave Jack's a number. You know what, I wonder if this is gonna work, we'll see. I didn't even think about it. Well, he's doing one scan, so anything not scanning.
Okay, let's see, just let me see what,
Yeah, I didn't even think about the emails there. Because that is under, you can't see, it's just listed as record, record, I see the emails. attached. I see it.
I've always thought coyotes on flagpoles, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Too intimidating.
Amy, or if you text me, I'll forward them to her. That too.
Okay, well, tell me where, because I obviously just called you off of my caller ID here, because you called us from your cell phone, but I didn't say yours.
Oh, hold on a minute. 674. 546.
Six, seven, four, one,
There you
five,
go.
four, two, got it. I'll send you Chris's number before this.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm great, how about you?
Good.
You guys don't have to get up. How you doing?
Good, sir.
Feeling good? I'm good.
Good.
Morning, sir, how are you?
Scott.
Morning, sir,
How you doing today, sir?
Well, if I was doing any better, I don't know.
You'd be doing a tap dance on
I
the
would.
table.
If we could just make it warmer in the county, you don't have to take care of that.
Hey, at least we don't have the snow before.
This is true. I was watching the news last night, New York and all them, Jersey.
Oh,
They can keep it.
Absolutely.
They can keep it. But if it was 75 degrees, I wouldn't complain.
Yeah.
I'd be right there in the same boat.
We literally never been so happy.
What's going on with you guys, anything?
Like, are
Not a
you
lot.
with us all?
Now,
Yeah, that's good, that's good then.
no news, like you always say, no news.
No news is good news. Michelle, you doing good?
Okay, well.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Chris will do it.
Yes, just
Oh,
sure.
no, I do.
Well, I think she just texted somebody else.
You lost a lot. You need to stand for the copier anymore.
Did you send that?
Huh?
Did you send that already? Yeah, it's going to
Why? No.
Ada Chamber on Thursday.
Oh, yes, I did, no, it's still sitting there.
I was
I've got tickets.
I got somebody else. Yeah.
Okay, guys.
We're a few minutes early, but I think we're good to go, so.
I'm set right here. I don't really have anything. I have one thing that I would like to, go into executive session for, but before we get into that, you guys have anything for me?
How's the, security council?
Just talking to Tony, he said, that, you know, they're still dealing with a couple hiccups here and there, but all in all, it's going very well. Machines are working good. It's more attitudes than anything else. Just a few don't like it and they're having to get used to it. But aside from that, I don't believe we're having any issues. Have you guys heard of any issues?
No, quite frankly, I have not, and I'll be honest with you, when I go through, I'm very impressed with how Tony is working at me.
Yeah.
He's helping people out, he's keeping it going.
Yeah.
As opposed to letting things
Yeah,
pile
the
up.
first day we opened up shop down there was, that was rough, slow line.
Sure.
But I think he's worked through that, so, yeah, in talking to him directly, he doesn't see any problems other than a few people just giving him grief about the whole thing, and said, well, they don't like it, haven't called me, so. But aside from that, I think things are going good.
Good.
Good, good.
I can make the motion to go into executive session under what reason?
Purchasing property is,
So that's,
That'd be 121.22 G2.
And I will second.
Time.
The 9:25, I invite the sheriff and the chief deputy sheriff to step.
All right, roll call, Tim,
yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
well, I will text you guys. If you do, you do, that's what we do.
Tim.
Okay.
Send that to the breakout.
You were fully aware that NW was a Thursday. 24/7. I had a whole. down here by 10. Or, I mean, I don't know how long it's gonna take, even if she can be here by 10:15.
Yeah,
I don't know how Brad is, but she can be in here at 11:30 to noon.
okay,
That would work better for her.
yeah.
A little more of a notice, I guess.
Okay.
Yes.
So 10:30 would work, or 12,
Or 11:30, I think.
11:30, yeah.
Okay. So, no, he is. Gotcha. I'm talking about 250.
Did we ever get it work? I do have scans now.
Oh, good. Look, we got 5 minutes of Chris and he's already solving all our little problems.
Well, nobody's in the room. I'm in here by myself.
But I wonder, you know what? I wonder if we could change trays, can we change doors?
I don't see why, we could try it and see what
I,
Hey, so I don't wanna be in trouble, but I am in here all by myself.
now you're not.
Well, I mean, like, before I've gotten in trouble for being in here
Oh,
alone.
you're okay.
Okay, well, I just,
And add to your agenda, I think, Deb Phillips just called and wants to come up, talk about 250.
oh, okay,
So I said, come on up.
yep,
It's not a 24-hour notice, but
oh, it's alright,
I figured you'd be okay with it.
yeah.
She wants to talk on coming events on 250.
How are those going?
Oh, good. She wants to, well, I'll let her talk, but she kinda texted ahead and wanted to know when we had an opening.
Yeah,
I said, well, come down. She said, okay, she's coming up.
very good,
It's going good.
yeah,
They're using her 50,000 well,
and that's from this, is that from the state?
county.
Oh, the county put it
Yeah,
toward that?
county general. We did a motion last December, a resolution allotting $50,000 for the 250 celebration. That includes fireworks and things, so we haven't announced that yet, but they're gonna beef up the fireworks
Yeah,
display in Kenton, Ada, and hopefully Forest. I don't think they'll turn money down if we.
Yeah.
But we're getting to the time where we need to order fireworks for this year. Cause I think everybody else in the world, well, America's only ordering fireworks extra probably.
oh, yeah, that'd be a huge demand.
Like, so basically, most regulars, I mean, would go in and say like, hey, this thing is this, they're gonna go back, like, I'm not sure it is.
It did, and once I flipped it over, it's on the right side. Just try it again and see, clear jam, hold on. I'll see the jam.
And it's not that to be, like, we're at a place where, it's like, oh, hey, here's the jam.
All right, let me, hold on one second. Okay, now let's see. So it acts like, it says there's a jam, but there's no jam. It's just like stopping, see how it's not finishing well. Because when I cleared the last jam, it just, yeah. I bet, but that's what happened.
Deb's coming.
Yeah, so you shot with it.
And she's quick.
Yeah.
You can come in and have a seat when I get ready.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah.
Got a second.
Sorry to spring this on you, but we're doing this in,
Oh, that's,
what, a week? I'm like,
I see, is this one of what we had on the original 50?
yes. So, well,
And Fred,
I doubt.
hi
sorry,
Fred,
dear.
you're fine.
If that's what we got, if,
Yes. So,
Wait, we got, wait till Tori's in here.
hang on, see, here's.
so, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
The original America 250, Ohio Goes to the Movies, with the committee, they're doing it in September, all of them, which I think I told you guys
Yeah.
that. But we wanted to do March because it followed the theme of what America 250 is doing in Ohio. March is the Ohio Goes to the Movies, like they're just playing it up big for the month of March. So we asked them, all three, do you wanna do this? They all three said yes, wanting to know, is it just a one day? And I said, well, it doesn't cost $3,500 for one day, since they're getting it for just one day in September, and this is your county fund, so I'm kind of leaving this in your court. The drive-in said $750 a day to do the movies, so we'll do 4 days. We'll have our opening day be on March 20th instead of April 1st, and we'll do the 20th, 21st, and we'll do the 27th and 28th. And I'm like, great. So then I tell Kenton 3 and Ada the same, you know, let's do a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so that yours is at least 3 days. And they said they can only do one day because of how they schedule their movies, but they are offering popcorn and water also to go with it. So instead of being $5 a person to come in, it's $8 because they're doing the popcorn and the movie, with water, they said. And I said, okay, how many people can you fit in there? Is it 150 in the large one? They said no, 350, so that's $1,750. So I'm just wanting to do the right thing, that the drive-in saying 4 days. And they're wanting to do one and get the same amount of money, and I need to make sure that you guys are okay with this, cause if you're not, I thought, let's
Right.
just say,
But in the same sense, we're getting more for each time because of the popcorn and water too. As far as dollar.
well, that's $1,750 though.
Yeah, so the math don't math. The math isn't mathing.
No, so it's $1,750 a day for them.
And only 700.
And $750 for them, but they're not giving a free pop and, cause the deal is with Ohio Goes to Movies is, the movie needs to be free, but you can make money off your concessions. So that's what
Okay.
they're doing at High Road. They are giving a popcorn and water with the movie for free, which I'm fine with, if that's how you wanna do it, but it's still only $1,750 and the 350 seated.
And that's for one day only.
Yeah. Actually, I take that back. It's $2,800. $8 times 350 is $2,800. But still, it's not $3,500. And
Dollar,
again,
do that over again, real quick, the math, you
Okay.
said.
$350, they say that the large, movie theater holds 350 people, and it's $8
Yeah.
So
per
it's
person, they're
completely
saying.
full.
And it's not gonna be completely full is my thing either. And then you're gonna get $3,500 for only doing it one time. I just feel like some money, I'm not trying to be mean here, is being pocketed and not given to the public. And I want you guys to be okay with this. I didn't wanna make that decision and then you say, why are they doing 4 days and they're doing one? So,
Well, I think you're okay with the separate agreements, but
yeah.
as long as they're happy with what's going on, but
So do we do
how
an
do you
amount?
feel it's being pocketed?
What do you mean?
You
Because
said
we're getting
4
4 days of possible movies for people to go watch versus just one day,
Yeah,
the same amount of money.
For
Like
the
they're
same-
using-
Basically for about the same amount of money, yeah.
yeah. I just want it to be fair, and I don't want anybody to get upset,
Right.
or you guys to say, hey, we saw they're doing 4 days, and we're only doing one, and they all got the same amount of money.
And, you know, but it's two different entities, two different.
Yeah,
companies.
absolutely. This is Josh and
Different-
Brian, with their
different
last
prices.
names, and this is James and Sherry Curlis, Ada and Kenton. And I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, I just want the right thing to be done, and I don't want you guys to say,
As long as, I guess the main thing isn't staying in the budget that's been approved.
right, which is, they are staying within the budget.
Okay. And that's why we kinda left it to the chamber to
Okay,
depend on.
So are they having it the same day, Ada and Kenton, or are they gonna have it different days?
they haven't picked their days or their movies yet, because they were waiting, he said, you know, do you have an answer from the commissioners? And I said, well, I'm going to email them, they're only in session on Tuesdays and Thursdays, this was Friday. And I figured I wouldn't be able to get in today, that's why I went ahead and emailed you today, and we're thinking of it, excuse me, not coming until Thursday, but,
So if this event doesn't, what do I wanna say, it costs what's been budgeted,
mhm,
you can use it later in the year,
well, that's true.
if you do a movie, say in the fall, or,
Well, that is separate because Ohio Goes to the Movies Committee, the state of Ohio gave them each $3,500 and they just did a flat for one day being free. The movie is free. Again, you can sell your concessions, but you have to let the public watch the movie for free one day. And I think they did a flat amount because there's so many movie theaters that are different sized that they just said, we're not gonna tell the smaller ones, you get this amount, the larger ones, you get this amount. They just did a $3,500, which won't cover all for the larger ones, but will cover a lot for them. And they're, I think when the 3,500 runs out, then it's not free any longer that day, or they know a time frame, how many times they can show the movie and use up their 3,500, whereas the smaller ones may not.
So again, the, drive-in is for how many days? 3?
4.
4, so 4 times 750
$750 is $3,000.
$3,000, and $8 per person for 350 people,
28.
to 2,800. And is that 350 for both theaters, or,
No, what did they tell me the Ada Theater holds? It may be 150 or 200.
okay, but the 350 is
It's
for
Kenton.
both theaters?
That was not my understanding.
How
My
about,
understanding
how
is
about Ada Theater?
that one's either 150 or 200. I don't remember which amount they said, what that one holds, the theater.
So I'm trying to get a cost here for everything.
Yeah.
So what's the cost for Ada Theater?
It's $5 per person there also, but I'm not sure how many that theater holds, whether it's 150 or 200. I don't remember which amount they said.
So it would be $5 or $8?
Oh, 8, because they're gonna do free popcorn and movie
Okay,
there too.
okay, so $8 and $8.
Yep.
$350 and whatever it is over at Ada. So say 150.
Okay.
Don't know, but I just,
And that should be $17.50.
$8 times 50.
150,
150. $1,200.
1,200.
So that basically is $2,800, $1,200, $4,000. And that's based on 150, and the other one's based on 350.
Mhm.
And High Road Drive-In is 3,000 based on 4 days.
Yep.
About $4,000 total.
3,500 for Ada, 3,500 for Kenton, and 3,500 for the drive-in.
So we're well within.
so we're well over, we've
Yeah.
approved this, so I guess.
We're in the budget, I'm just asking,
Oh, okay.
I don't wanna give them $3,500 if they're not going to use it all for the public. So if you guys are okay with that, I will do it.
No,
See what I'm
don't
saying?
do
But
it
if they're
for
getting,
less.
if they're getting a popcorn and a pop or water, whatever,
Whatever it's gonna cost them, if they fill that movie theater for that day, that's the amount of it,
Okay.
so that would actually be,
what he came up with.
Right.
The, you know, okay?
Okay, let's do this one more time. 35, you said 3,500, 3,500, 3,500.
Correct.
So we're not gonna spend 3,500, 3,500,
No,
3,500.
no,
We're gonna spend probably in the neighborhood of about 3,000,
yep,
2,800
mhm,
and 1,200.
yes,
And you're wanting to make sure that we're in agreement with that,
correct,
and it falls within 3,500,
yes,
so I see no problem.
I mean, they're
But
getting,
it's not that we're giving them 3,500 each, we're giving them 3,000, 2,800, and 1,200.
and my understanding was that if we were following what Ohio Goes movies, the state was doing, they just gave them the $3,500 check. I didn't want to just give them a $3,500
No,
check,
I
if
see.
they weren't using it.
No,
no, we'll pay what we,
Okay,
yeah,
if their prices are what they just dictated or just said,
Yeah.
yeah,
then it only makes sense that that's what we pay.
okay,
so are they going to definitely advertise so people,
yes, and we are gonna advertise it with them as well on social media.
because we want everybody that can go,
Yes,
that's,
So if it's, you have a cost to advertise, that could come out of,
okay,
if you.
That's
have
true,
any
Eric, that's a good
extra,
point, Jeff.
use that to advertise the movie.
and there are the stickers that I told you guys about, the Ohio Goes movies, we are
Which is
getting.
gonna cost a little bit.
Well, it's $218, I just found out, from
Okay.
Molly Creasman, who runs the committee,
So,
for 1,000 of them, so that's not bad.
so you got 3,500, 3,500, you've got a budget of a little over $10,000, 10,500.
Yeah.
And right now, we've got 4,000 and, 3,000, 7,000 is being spent just for the movie tickets and everything, correct?
Correct,
And so you've got a little bit more buffer, about 3,050 to do a few things more.
yeah, okay,
yeah,
Yeah, very good.
I just wanted to make sure that,
no, I appreciate that.
I didn't
Yeah,
want to
and,
give
all,
this,
and this is good because, you know, it's one of those things when you come up with the budget, you're saying, okay, this is what we're
Right.
looking at. And I think our thinking was, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that 3,500 would be up to a maximum of $3,500.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's perfect.
I may have misunderstood that, because I just thought we were just giving them $3,500 each, I'm like, wait a minute, you're not spending
No.
on it.
I think, you know, let's face it, you're looking at a entity giving us a price for how much it is, and they're giving us a price. And so we're acknowledging that price and doing it accordingly.
Yeah.
We just put limits on it as to how much we want to go.
Sounds good,
How about you?
And I think you're safe with, like I said, advertising, if you've got a cost to advertise these movies.
right,
Yep, that way we still within the budget and
right,
You
we're
stay up
paying
with
for what
this.
we're actually getting instead of giving money out that we're not getting anything for, so,
right, okay,
And if you end up an extra, you may be able to use it,
somewhere else.
something else
another
later
one,
in the year.
yeah, okay, sounds
Yeah.
good,
That's just,
So,
Appreciate it, Deb.
so that's good, 7,000 that we know of right now plus.
Yeah.
And you got a budget of 10,500, so we got some room.
okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks for letting me come in
Hey, no
on
problem.
such
Thank you
short
for coming
notice.
up.
No, we appreciate you getting back to us on that and letting us know.
Yeah, no problem, you guys have a great day.
Yeah, see you.
Thank you. See ya. Yes.
We have the box of easels, that'll be signage for the libraries. They're very heavy, but yes, if you want to.
I walked.
I come back and I got those, it looks like a small box, but it's heavy.
Okay, I'll come back and do it. I think she's feeling better.
We got them
250 one. We need to let the entities know by this plan, so they can order more. I know they were saying the first of the year, they usually have to order the fireworks, so. Do you know, we have to go through the fair board?
No, it's fair board, it'd be,
Laying down, so she's doing all this.
I should literally send a picture, I wish I would've taken a picture of you with all the drawers pulled out and that crumpled paper and sent it to her and been like, look what you've done. Look how.
Do they still service it? Like, do they take care of it or?
So you call it service? I've been here 2 years, I've never seen one time.
I'm just a little,
It's like deer dogs,
is
you have to
it
call them, they don't come around.
just, like, I have no way to rotate paper. I can't find a site, cause like, if I could do that, I could literally rotate the paper, it'd be fine, you guys would, you wouldn't even notice it. You'd be able to put it in the same way, but there's not a single segment between Jazz and Chris's.
So isn't it crazy that my computer's printing it just fine if they go
Well,
on the
I'm sure
side?
that I went over Deb's, I'm sure if we print went over Deb's account and did it, it'd print just fine too. It's literally just, when we set up a picture or something.
No, I can, go ahead.
And it's like, it breaks, but it's not the issue. Like, so if I can get it under here, then the whole, like, it just rotate it. And put the paper in the opposite way. Cause then if I
I love
also,
technology.
if you went to print it, it also prints on mine, it gets printed upside down.
Paper's all
It-
down.
it's like
Can
you're-
I ask, is the movies a certain special movie or?
there was a list of them, I think.
There was a
They're gonna
list.
pick, that the Ohio dictated that would meet.
I don't think, I mean, I can talk to Chris, but he just didn't think so, I don't know if he's gonna be able to answer. If he had into that guy.
No, he wouldn't, if he's Xerox.
That was the only other thing I was gonna do, was literally go into there, I had their portal pulled up.
Actually, I don't know, I say that with full confidence, but I don't know why Chris would have them log in.
I don't know, most of the time they print them on.
Wouldn't think he would be allowed to, if you have a contract with them, maintenance contract with them.
it going?
Good, Luke, how you been?
Hi Luke, how you doing?
Good.
Hi Trent.
Hold on, Trent.
Morning.
I did invite the city as well, so they could listen to it.
That's fine.
Potentially be involved depending on what direction we go. So, and there's Ben.
Good morning.
Morning.
How you doing?
Good, how are you guys doing?
Good. Hi Cindy.
Morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I got a little nervous because I thought maybe I didn't hear back from Ben, and I looked and I saw that you replied that you would be here, so, okay, good.
I was on my way over here, I got a call from Paul Osborne. Can you swing by Alger real quick? I hear you're going to Kenton. Yeah, swing through.
Hey, do you know when you're heading to Forest?
For,
I don't know, whatever their next,
there,
Are you
I'll be in
waiting?
Forest on Thursday.
will ya?
Ben.
Well, I guess I will too.
I work with
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, winter won't give up, well,
Tell you what, at least we're not in New York City.
right, yeah, that's
They're
great.
talking 2 feet over there, weren't they?
I think at least 2 feet, and then as you go into Massachusetts and Connecticut, I think they even got more.
They can have it.
They can have it.
Nice.
They can have it.
So we can
No, we didn't, yeah.
views on the scene.
Good, how are you?
Good. Are you guys ready? Yep.
All set?
Okay, I'll kind of kick it off, then I'll turn it over to you, Ben. So, I'm sure commissioners remember, so this is a follow-up meeting to our meeting there last week about, route addition, or maybe that, let's just say the general area on that side, but, you know, the route addition issue is kind of what kicked this off. About looking at doing a study, that Westler can do, to help us, study the whole area out there to see, you know, what it would cost to potentially pumping that to the city of Kenton. And then, and I'll let Ben kind of explain it, but then potentially submitting that study to, the Ohio EPA, and then they'll like respond of what type of money would be available for regionalization money, which sounds like it's pretty high right now, 90 to 100%. Principal forgiveness is what they call it, which maybe kind of talk about that at some point as well. I think everyone knows this Ben from Westler Engineering. I invited the city of Kenton, Cindy from the city, because potentially could affect the city if we end up pumping over there. So, anything else? So I guess the purpose of this meeting then is for the commissioners and Ben and maybe the group to discuss, you know, what we want out of the study, how big this study needs to be, and those type of questions I'm sure Ben will be asking so that he can prepare then a quote or a proposal to do said study, so.
That is kind of in a nutshell. To understand, you know, because Luke and I discussed it a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but to understand, okay, are we just looking at just the subdivision, or are we looking at beyond the subdivision? As you can see it from, we just kind of printed this out just for, you know, so we're all on the same page, but you have a subdivision to the north that from our understanding is not a part of Kenton system.
That's right, yeah. So you're talking about,
Yeah, this subdivision.
so Meyer, yeah.
So if they're not a part of it, do you want, or will they eventually be included? Luke talked about, you know, economic development, so that's kind of where, you know, we just kind of drew a blank pink square there. You can move that square anywhere you want on this map, but is there future economic development opportunities or pursuits that the county or the city want to pursue? The green areas, I don't believe are tied into the root subdivision. I believe they have septic systems. Do we extend it out to them? So that's the kind of the idea of how big of a study do we want to look at? Keep it very narrow to just roots, or to expand it outward. And so it's really just trying to understand what kind of a scope should we build our feet around for a feasibility study.
And so just as a point of reference, area of interest number 1 is
Cemetery.
basically cemetery.
No, that's a Meyer addition.
That's my.
Oh, that's my addition,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So potentially area of interest number 3
Mhm.
would be,
That's-
road
That's the
addition.
root addition.
Yes.
Now, I will say that the root addition actually stopped at 144.
Okay,
So those homes on the north side of 144 is what started this whole, problem, if you will, or potential, the reason we're looking for potential solutions to the problem. So that area is out currently.
okay.
So that would definitely we would wanna include. There also, from conversations with the health department, area of interest number 4 would also need to be included, because those are small lots with on-site septic systems currently.
Mhm.
I know there's been talk about, so if you look south of area interest number 3, potentially developing that, into homes.
The field as an extension of the subdivision there.
Now, the problem with that area is, there's some floodplain and some of it, so I don't know the extent of the development there.
And again, area number 2 is, area of interest number 2 is.
So that now is just an open, and I think he just designated that area for maybe potential,
Household homes or.
potential development area, which he said that block can be moved anywhere you want it. So the question that then was, do you wanna include additional area for potential development of some kind?
Basically, it's for sizing.
Yes.
Size, future sizing.
So I guess, question to you, Ben, when you do this, and maybe a question to the city at the same time, from what we can tell, based on your existing, collection system, City of Kittens, it looks like we could either connect down near Bales Road
Yep, right in front of the.
or, Jacob Parrott. Is that correct? And would the city have a preference, or does it matter?
I can't answer that.
Okay. Back to you then, Ben.
Mhm.
If you do this study, would you look at potential options for connection points?
Yes.
Okay. Cause that would make the difference. And I said if it's gonna cost the same, my idea all along would be to go up and along 309 and potentially putting a manhole in front of Meyer Addition.
Mhm.
Because I know, they've permitted some on-site systems, newer ones, but the lots are small, and I know the health department, if they have quite a few of them start failing, I think they're gonna look at, making them go to a different system. But there are currently no collection lines, which is a problem. But if it's same money to go that direction versus south, my idea was always go that direction with some type of structure in front of Meyer for potential connection in the future. Does that make sense?
So,
I know we would wanna limit the number of times we have to go and siphon underneath the river, so
So if we go to the South Bales Road,
I think you probably have to have another one underneath the river versus if you went up.
Well, that's a
So I
gravity-
don't know what size.
that's a gravity siphon, I think. More than likely, we would have some type of force system, so, it wouldn't be an issue. With a siphon, with this system.
yeah, and just, I think to link, the size and scope of the project to the bare minimum, the heart of the issue. Like, if we were just interested about replacing the plant with a force main lift station, we would probably just run the lift station to wherever the city wants the tie-in location be, whether it's Bales Road or the intersection of Jacob Parrott,
Or Jacob Parrott, yeah.
right? And you wouldn't worry about any of these other areas of interest. But if you start looking at a more, when I say regional approach, like the whole area as a whole, going back to what you said, we can start either planning other additional gravity sewers. For example, like area of interest number 1, if we think that could be sewered in the future, putting a gravity system out front. You know, is Jacob Parrott deep enough to where we can actually extend gravity systems to the east? Does it make sense to redo some gravity systems in area 3 to run flows to the north, and then you move your lift station closer to 309? Those are the decisions that we would factor into our alternative analysis, evaluation, if we wanna start looking at a more regional, comprehensive future planning approach versus just solving the issues at hand. So that's kind of where.
Yes, and the other thing, I've had conversations, Ben and I have discussed this, so the other thing the commissioners need to, I guess, think about and make a decision about is if we look at root addition and possibly the outlier properties only, the study is gonna be a lot cheaper.
Yes.
If we look at more of a regionalization approach, they have to factor in a lot more. The study gets more expensive, the bigger the study area gets.
Right.
And that's kind of the decision, you know, the decision to move forward, then, you know, we don't have to make till down the road, whether we wanna try to pursue the grant money or pursue, construction of whatever the study says we should do. But right now, we gotta decide is, you know, what do we wanna include in the study? And if we keep it small and simple, root outliers, it's gonna be fairly inexpensive. If we go big, and I don't know if you wanna throw those numbers out or not, I know you and I talked about some numbers, but I'm not gonna speak.
Well, is there an option 1, which would be root addition and the outliers, and then an option 2, or is it?
You're talking as far as, quotes or proposals?
Yes.
Proposals.
And cost of the study.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
sure the larger area is gonna be more cost to the county. The county's only, at this point, responsible for root addition update. I guess if that's safe to say. And so, if any of the other entities, and have we asked the city, are they, if we're gonna pump the city, we better get their permission.
Technically, no, but yes, it's good that we're all, that's why I invited the city. And our conversations with the city would be willing to accept it. I think though, technically, I don't think the city would have to sign off on it. The EPA is the one that approves a application.
Yes, so if you were to move forward with construction, and design construction, the EPA, what they would need is the county would be responsible for all the permits. The only thing that they would need is probably some documentation from the city to say, yes, we are capable of receiving your flows.
Well, I guess then that narrows down whether, how big we go. Cause if we're going just the root addition, which is what and they say no, then our study changes.
It would.
Then we only need the minimum. So I
But
guess
you
that's
gotta
a conversation.
You gotta do the study also though, to calculate flows to know if they've got the capacity to handle it or not.
Yeah, in order to apply for any funding, you need to outline the alternatives you evaluated, your recommended, the direction that the county wants to take. All that's gotta be in some kind of report format. Now, if this was a wastewater plant design, it would be a very big report. But for just a lift station, that it's a much condensed, not as detailed, I would use simple terms, but as you said, if the city can't take on the flows, or if OEPA denies that connection because the flows out of your Roos plant is too much for the city to handle, which I don't know anything about their plant on the wastewater side. But if the OEPA says no, they can't take on those flows, now it becomes a larger project where you're now working with the city of Kenton to either A, upgrade their facilities to take on your additional flows, or B, doesn't work, you've gotta now upgrade your plant. But we don't know that as of right now.
Which the EPA has told me in an email format that they would not let us upgrade the plant. That our recommended option would be to pump to the city of Kent. So in the event that we would have to upgrade this plant in the future, whether we do it now or later, they do not want, they will not issue another discharge permit, NPDES discharge permit for this, direct discharge for this plant, so. But yes, we would like for the city to be on board with whatever decision we go with.
So
And this-
right now, by the numbers we had the other day, we're at 50,000 gallons, or 50,000,
Well, yeah, we're,
well, if it's.
our design flow is 33.
33, so 33,000 gallons. If you pick up the rest of RIT, or I call it RIT, but on the outliers because what's with everything they're in, you bump it up to 60,000.
Yeah, so what I don't, yeah, I do that. I think there's 25 additional homes, like outlier homes.
Yeah.
And EPA's for single family homes is 480 gallons a day,
Design number.
design number, which would be what they would want for, yes.
Okay.
So
That's
480
overly
times 29,
conservative, but.
another
that's what they
12
force us to
12,000
say.
gallons a day.
So you're pushing right there about 50,000.
About 50, yeah.
Yeah.
So if the city says we can handle another 100,000, so that part would be good. Or the EPA, whatever they think, but if they say they can handle another 500,000, then that would alter how we would think. You know, I don't wanna overload their system.
Right.
I mean, I'm not in the business of causing grief on another entity, that's not what we wanna do. So I guess, is there a way to find out in a short order what their capacity is, or what the EPA will allow, or as far as their system before we move forward? Cause that makes sense as far as, you know, you can talk everything else, but if we're gonna max our system out just strictly with what we need, not looking down the road.
Yeah.
But if the capacity is there for exponential growth as far as their wastewater plant, then, I mean, I think that might go a different direction.
That's a start.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Cindy, so that question would have to go to Mike? Yeah.
And he's on vacation this week.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, so I guess, in your recommendation, if they do the big study, will it have flows broken down by area?
Yes. Yes,
So then, if you did the big study, then, we could pick and choose whether to include or not include certain areas based on their
Capacity.
And that's common, what we would do. for
and that would be included in the study.
Mhm.
That's where I'm getting at, you know, our concern, our only thing we need right now is strictly, and road addition's fine, there's nothing wrong, but you have these houses on the other side, that if we don't do anything, then the health department's coming in, they're going to have to redo their septics at X number of dollars, and it could be 10 years, 20 years, or it could be 2 years. So they're gonna get double whammied as far as their money. I wouldn't want that to go on me personally, so I wouldn't want that to happen to these individuals. So I'm more concerned with RUT, but if the study shows everything else, I'm good with whatever, as long as the capacity, we're not overloading the city's wastewater. So I guess if we can find out the capacity part, I'm good with whatever. I mean, as far as, it makes sense to go up because the main trunk line's going down Jacob Kirk.
So,
And that way you don't have to bore, don't have to do any of that stuff. It's easy access.
I guess my question would be, if we do just root, what the price for the study is, and if we did everything, what's the price?
Let's say root and adjacent
Yeah.
area.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
so we're talking,
Regulators to
Mhm.
that, so.
So I guess that answers a lot of my questions, because I don't want this to impact anybody in the house. You know, if this is what, I understand their system's failing, that's why it brought to our attention.
Yep.
You know, that's the whole thing, it wasn't our system failing, Brits is fine for 10, 15, 20 years or more. It's strictly the outliers that's caused it, which, as you can see, is just next door.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what's brought to the attention.
I guess what I wanted to point out is this type of thing is what the EPA is trying to, get taken care of. So it checks a lot of boxes for a lot of their different funding options, and potentially, and I'm gonna call it grant funding, they call it principal forgiveness, but grant money, from the state to, offset potentially 90 to 100% of construction costs. But we gotta start with a study.
Yeah. Okay.
We have in the past too, if there is, and when we did, I kinda use this area down south of town, I know you guys are familiar with it, but, we did direct assessments to property owners, cause we did have some, local match money required, so property owners were assessed directly to cover that match money. And we already have a precedent in place, we already have and we can kind of use what we did down there. If there is local match, if we go the route of construction, if there is local match, then the landowners help to pay that local part.
And you've got a
With
template,
direct assessments.
you've got a template in there that shows how you've done that in the
Yeah,
past.
and the prosecutor was involved with that whole process and everything, so, but yeah. So it's not general fund money that helps offset any local match money, the actual end user helps pay that.
And this is strictly just a sewer assessment,
Just sewer.
just sewer. And then who's the, if you go forward with the plan and you end up with the grant money and you tie into Kenton, right? The end user is anybody who uses the Kenton wastewater plant will be picking up the tab on that?
Yeah, they'll have to pay City of Canton, which if they're outside of the corporation, they pay a double rate. And they have to pay the City of Canton then for the sewage. That would be an agreement we'd have to work out with the city on how that's billed. And of course, this is all something that had to be worked out with the city, and maybe Ben can maybe weigh in on how it's handled in other communities. And I know how it's handled. It's kind of a mixed bag what entity then takes care of the collection system, I'm gonna say, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes the city would take over, be dedicated to the city, sometimes the other entity. Perfect example would be, and I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but Ridgeway, Mount Victory. Ridgeway now pumps their sewage to Mount Victory, and Ridgeway owns all of the collection and pumping system till the point of connection, Mount Victory. And I'm not sure how the billing works out, if Mount Victory bills Ridgeway or property owners individually, but the problem with that type of system in my mind is you got two billing entities. One bills for collection system maintenance, one bills for treatment of actual sewage. I think it's a lot cleaner if
One
entity.
the entity that's receiving it receives all of it.
But that would be agreement that the commissioners and the city would have to work out in the event that this project would get constructed.
I guess my ask is we have a plan A and a plan B.
Mhm.
And kind of give us the cost, before you get deep dive into it. I understand you don't have time and money in it, which is no problem. We're asking you to do this, but I guess if we're going to do something, we might want to look at everything,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. But we need to get with Mike, or if Cindy will, to see what we're setting at down there, so we're not overloading their system too, if we go to plan B instead of plan A, or vice versa, whichever comes about.
Mhm.
So moving forward, probably be best that we make sure that they even have any additional capacity before you do the or before you do proposal for studies.
That would be preferred if the city knows what their max number is on what they can receive, what OEPA would.
I think that's the best, know where you're at right now,
Yeah.
and then do your proposals based on where you're at right now.
Yeah.
And if there's available capacity, then you would work up a proposal for option A and option B for the commissioners to review, and ultimately they would have to sign a contract then to move forward with whatever option.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, for the regional approach, we don't know the flows coming out of area of interest one or future economic development, either whether it's commercial or more residential, we don't know any of that. And that is information that maybe the city might need. If OEPA comes back with, we'll grant you guys maybe 200,000 gallons of average day flow, for example. Well, I can tell you right now, you're already gonna be pushing up against that. Because just doing a quick dive into the Roots plant now, I think you said it was rated for 33,000. Your dry weather flow is only about 20,000, so there is the capacity to have a dry weather, but as soon as you start getting wet weather, your flows are now at 50,000. You exceed the rated capacity of that plant. Now, I don't think OEPA gets too worried about it because the plant performs.
That's right, yeah.
Still performs pretty well, even though you're exceeding the rated flow, and I don't think there's any overflows at the plant. No, so it performs. However, that wet weather flow still goes to Ken, and they have to treat rainwater essentially.
And we're saying, we're doing all we can do to separate.
Yeah, so we had a study done by Choice One, on rainwater that's entering the system. And we're looking at taking next steps for smoke testing too. We've got areas identified, and the county has taken steps to get that separated.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll get, our goal is to get back down to that dry weather flow year round. I know it's gonna go up a little bit, but we are getting, we have some direct connections from homeowners. And we're gonna work on that. So hopefully that, I mean, right now, yes, statistical data is 50,000.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get that back down to where it should.
Yeah, because the peak flows are about 120.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of looks like.
Yeah.
Now, from a lift station size, that's not a big difference. It's not a huge lift station at all, so even at 120,000. But it's when you start factoring in an additional, 50 homes per Meyer. And I don't know how old Meyer subdivision is. It's a fairly newer one.
No,
60s.
It's old.
It is old. So they're probably not too far away from Area 4 there with those homes then. If their septic systems are still performing adequately, maybe 10, 20 years from now, maybe they won't be. And you can see it a lot that they won't qualify for future septic improvements.
Yep.
And I doubt the OEPA would allow them to.
They are on the EPA's watch.
They are on the list too? Okay, so that answers that.
So I, as far as the study then, so will you look at, so if you look at regionalization, say for the whole area, will you look to see if it potentially would be cheaper for Meyer doing their own and going, say, west, and Root doing their own and say going south to that other point of connection? Because I've wondered in my own mind, and I've not looked at it, that maybe that would be having their own complete. Will your study kind of look at that and indicate whether that would be a more, a cheaper option or not?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so we would look at, if we were to do a whole region approach, we would look at keeping it simple, one force main, everyone ties into one force main, 2 lift stations or multiple lift stations. We would look at potentially reworking maybe the gravity system. That would be the most expensive option, but could you get away with just 1 lift station versus 2 or 3?
So it paid for itself.
Yeah. And then, the other option would be, they go separate ways, do they combine? We would look at all that as a regional approach. The big thing, our biggest questions there is, again, what can the city of Kenton take? Because I would say, when you start looking at future development growth and a whole other subdivision, I wouldn't be surprised if you're looking at 200+ thousand gallons of flow. And it sounds like you address the INI, hopefully that number goes down, but as of right now, we have to work with the numbers that are present. And 120,000 gallons through a sewer is something. So we have to look at the collection systems. Could that interceptor collection system at that point handle 120, 200,000 gallons a day? So that, I'd say our first steps, have Kenton check with OEPA.
Yes.
What would they be approved? Because if they say only 100,000, well then our answer is you can only take on routes without an improvement at the plant.
Right.
For Kenton. If they will approve Canton to go up to 400,000, now we can look at probably a regional approach and we can start putting numbers together. First step for us will be determining flows for everyone. Looking at routes, adding in the additional 25 homes for area 4, maybe the additional 40 to 50 homes area 1 that we'll get with Hardin County Economic Development Group, figure out, hey, has there been any interest on the east side of Canton for growth development? Is there a demand for housing? What should we plan around? We can put theoretical numbers to businesses or residential housing on a per acre basis, or if there's any numbers that they wanna give us, we'll run with those, but we'll first establish flows, go back to the city of Canton, and OEP say, this is what we're looking at, would you approve something like this, and if so, then we can be off with our evaluation, looking at all the different alternatives.
That makes the most
And
sense.
if at any time in that process where, as new information comes about, we come back and go, oh, looks like we're looking at 400,000 gallons, OEPA says, no, you're not doing 400,000 gallons, now that's a pivot, but we'll stop, we stop billing. We come back to everyone here and go, all right, do we scale back the project, or do we have to make it bigger and now evaluate Kenton's plan for an expansion? And so, at no point will we charge dollars if there's a point, an inflection point where we have to make a change, it'll stop right there, and we'll bring it back to you. So again, I don't wanna, if this contract ends up being 50,000, and we have to stop halfway through, you're not getting billed for $50,000. That's what I wanna get across. I mean, there's information as it comes available, if we have to make changes, we'll make changes.
Where does this storms drainage come in? Because it's part of the problem that RIT doesn't have it. It should have been put in at development. It doesn't have it. Does that fall in anywhere to say if you put in this new system, you also have to put in some sort of drainage because you're gonna be they're gonna be tying into the system no matter what?
No.
No.
It's
What about the future
not connected and unrelated.
What about future developments? Like if they put in new houses, no guarantees?
Well, I would hope that any future residential subdivisions that are made to comply with our construction standards if they're planning on connecting. So i.e. they would build a storm sewer system that follows City of Kenton's regulations. And we're trying to stay on top of that stuff now, hopefully better than was done then, to make sure that any new developments outside of incorporated areas specifically, follow, design standards or regulations for the incorporated, whether it be Alger or City of Kenton or whatever, so. To try to avoid being in this situation or putting someone in this situation in the future.
Ben, I appreciate everything, I guess you got your hands full. So I guess Cindy, whenever Mike gets back or whoever we need to talk to, go from there, then we can start the process. That way at least we have an idea which route we can go, and then we, whatever we need to do. So.
Do you want Cindy, Ben, do you want Ben to reach out directly to Mike maybe next week when he gets back and have?
I'll shoot you an email.
Okay.
And copy you two on
Yep.
it and tell Mike that we need to find out
Okay.
what we're capable of.
Cause you'll need that information, and I don't need to be him if you wanna work directly with them to maybe find out that information, so you know, but. So then you'll come back to the commissioners with proposals.
Based on information from the county.
Yep, so assuming everything checks out with OEPA and Kenton, we'll come back with 1 to 2 proposals again, depending, if there's plenty of capacity that they'll approve, then we'll come back with 2 proposals. One for just the bare minimum of areas 3 and 4, the other coming back with the region analysis evaluation.
But if there's not enough flow, potentially you'll come back with one.
Yep, if there's not enough flow, then we'll come back with 1.
Okay, makes sense.
Just real quick, and kind of for my own information, how does this exactly, does this principal forgiveness work? Does the EPA, does the commissioners have to pay that up front, and then they get paid back by EPA, or that's paid by EPA and then forgiven by E EPA?
So we had the 4 million for our downtown
Yeah,
project.
okay.
So you just submit the invoices to the EPA, and that $4 million is forgiven the very first thing, and then after that $4 million, and that's when you start paying on
Okay,
your.
so they forgive it right up front, you don't, as long as you build it like you say you're going to, and they just forgive it. So it's essentially a grant, but they call it,
They're not allowed to call it a grant.
okay.
If you say grant, then they will correct you.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question? You said on the, if Kenton can't sustain the flow, right, you're gonna go back to the number one option? And what is the number one option putting in a lift station for route, or is it fixing the houses that are actually the ones that's the problem? Like, is number one the houses that are the problem, or a lift station for
Well,
route?
as far from the county standpoint, the number one would be route and surrounding area.
So it would be
But to answer your
tying-
question, if there's not enough capacity even for that, then the adjacent homes would be forced to work with the health department to find a solution for their.
But number one is the adjacent houses tying into the route system, and then that getting lifted to Kenton.
Yes.
That's your.
Yep.
the-
That's
the-
option A, or.
Non-option is they have to fix it themselves.
Yes. Which, based on conversations I've had with the EPA, they're also gonna want them to try to get it to the city of Kenton. It would be a much smaller system, and they would be on their own trying to figure out how they're gonna get their waste to the city of Kenton. Which I've done in other communities with a small grinder pump. They pumped it up like a mile away. Of course, it gets expensive. They gotta figure out easements to get there and everything else.
But it's doable, but just
This would
not including Whistler. That's a
Right.
totally different
It'll be
system.
up, yeah, it'll be up their own, and a private, more than likely a private engineer to come up with a plan, and they also would have to get approval, but if you're talking about one home, you're talking about 480 gallons per day versus 120,000, so.
Well, everyone, I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
We have another meeting, so, but then, like I said, please, as soon as you find out, get with Luke, with us, and we'll see what could happen well.
Okay. Good, okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Luke,
See you.
Thank you.
take care. Trent,
See you guys.
take care.
Cindy, everything good?
I
Sure.
don't wanna take my phone off.
Thank
Do you want my phone
you.
number?
You guys have a good rest of your day.
If that works for you.
Yes.
If that picture moves.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, I tried to get it as straight. Oh, thank you. Well, you got my number now. It looks funny because it's Louisiana.
Oh, are you like, that's no fun, right? I'll note it down. You ready?
That's what it always is up here in the hot seat.
Yeah. That's right.
There.
Hi, boss, how are you today?
Good, good to see you. How's everything going?
Good, good. Bob, nice to see you
Good to
again.
see you again. Good to see you.
How are things going?
Good. I was trying to find the south entrance here and it took me a little bit, so I'm frozen right now.
So did you find it okay?
Well, well, I went, I parked out here and the south entrance, I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm kind of turned around here. So I went the wrong way, so I came all the way around. But it's fine. Woke me up a little. Take that pass around, Commissioner, I appreciate it. Got one more for you.
Thank you.
So, thanks for having me in today, commissioners. What we're gonna go over here is electric RFP results. You may remember a couple of years ago now, the counties all basically decided to group together their facilities with the idea of being, you know, the scaling basically their purchasing power. So you think of the benefit to the county grouping together their meters and the pricing, favorable pricing you get by doing that. And then you think about taking all of the county facilities and putting them together, and that's a scale up with the idea of getting better pricing. And so we actually, through the CCAO, so all the counties kind of ceded their signing authority for the facilities to the CCAO Energy Board. And so the CCAO Energy Board, in March of 2025, signed a contract for all 67 participating counties. And so half of the counties' contracts started last May, and then the other half start this May. We got all the counties to start around a year apart, but some of them are coming on, like I said, last May, and some are coming on this May. So for some of them, this was a 2-year agreement, and then for you guys starting in May, and I was just in Wyandotte County, they're another example. You guys will be starting this May in 2026. Now, when we did our budgets, which we handed out at our energy meeting back in October, these new numbers were reflected in that budget. So it's important that you know that, because you know, we hope that you're looking at that and using it. And so the increase that you're going to see here is reflected in that budget. And so with that, the first thing I handed out was capacity, and this is going to be a review. We kind of already talked about this in different instances, you know, talking about aggregation when I was here last time. But I figured I'd just do kind of a quick summary, because it's the same story, but it just applies a little bit differently to the county facilities. So the increase, and I know I'm repeating myself from a few months ago when I was here, but the increase in electric costs over the past year has to do with what's called capacity. And capacity is the amount of energy we need to fuel our grid. If we don't have enough capacity, that leads to blackouts and grayouts. And the reason pricing has gone up is because of the tremendous increase, which goes back in capacity, which goes back to supply and demand dynamics. So basically, we have a ton of demand coming online with data centers, and we just don't have the amount of supply needed. And so when that takes over, the price goes up. So the data centers, and I've probably said this here before, but the stat that I give you when we talk about increased demand and the demand data centers use, the average AI data center annually uses the same amount of electricity as 450,000 households. So huge, just one. So huge increase in demand. And so to make matters, you know, a little bit worse actually, is we actually, when it comes to PJM, which is our grid operator, we actually lost a little bit of supply as well. Because what we've been doing in the past is we've been shutting down coal plants and replacing them with natural gas to some degree, but also with intermittent generation, which is solar and wind. And solar and wind are great sources of energy as long as the wind's blowing and sunshine. We don't really have the battery capacity or affordable battery capacity yet, and that will change. I mean, I think we will get there. But if it makes it's intermittent because it's not what we call baseload generation, which is 24/7. So baseload generation would be exactly what you think: coal plant, nuclear plant, natural gas plant. They run 24/7 uninterrupted. The intermittent generation has to do with, you know, like I said, sunshine and when the wind blows. And so the tough part about intermittent generation is to try to predict when that happens. And so PJM thought that they had a calculation, you know, based on tons of data and history and so forth, where, all right, we can evaluate, or we can count on X amount of intermittent generation at this time, but the issue is if it's Y and it's a different, you know, and you don't have enough generation, then that becomes a big problem. Because like we said, if there's not enough capacity on the grid, that's when blackouts hit. Nobody wants that. So I can't remember, it's 2 or 3 winters ago, we actually came close to not having enough generation. We didn't have any blackouts or grouts, but it got to the point where PJM was very uncomfortable with the amount of generation we had. And so what they did, and you can kind of look on the backside of this capacity document that I sent you, is they basically said intermittent generation we're not going to include in our capacity auction for 25-26. And so the increase you see from 24-25 to 25-26, which is almost a 10x, are the 2 reasons that I just talked about. One, they didn't include intermittent generation sources at all as part of the profile for capacity for the 25-26 year, and also obviously you can kind of see 26-27 is now out, and it's not included in there either. But also we've got the huge increase in demand from data centers. So it's worse than just a huge increase in demand. You're taking supply away from the calculation as well. Now, that's not to say that if you've got a solar field or a wind farm, you're not producing any electricity that's going on the grid. You are. What PJM is saying is we just can't rely on that when we calculate how much energy we need for the grid. And so we're not going to take those into account because we don't have a good way to evaluate those yet. They're working on that in a very kind of ironic way. A lot of people are talking about how AI may actually help solve that problem. So it's ironic because they're kind of the reason for it, but also maybe the reason how it
But Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but prior to 24-25, you did take that into consideration.
Exactly. Well, yes, and they really, that's kind of where they got into a little bit of a sticky situation because they over-evaluated, you know, how much generation would come on, and in the winter, and again, I don't know the specifics of it, but just sort of commonsensically, you know, if you expected X amount from a solar array and you know, a wind farm, and you got Y, and Y was significantly less than X, you know, you're getting closer and closer to not have enough generation for the grid. And so that's why they decided, hey, we can't include those forms of energy right now because we don't know how to evaluate them properly. We thought we knew, but based on real life experiences, you know, we found out that those evaluations were not correct. And PJM's sort of single mandate, I guess, is to make sure they have enough power for the grid. They're not in the game of pricing. You know, our job is to make sure there's enough electricity. The pricing is gonna be what it's gonna be, but we need to have, you know, it's our job to make sure there's enough fuel for the grid. And so those 2 factors I think it's important to just kind of review that because those 2 factors are why the pricing has gone up. And so, you know, when I go and explain it to me, nobody likes the result of it, but if I can explain it to you, you can kind of understand why, which is, I think, helpful coping mechanism maybe. Any questions on that?
You know, I'm just thinking, you know, I look at the tremendous increase, just like
Yeah.
you say, almost 10K.
Sure.
It's gone up that many
Yeah.
times. And, you know, it just doesn't seem like that. It doesn't consider anything at all related to the solar and wind in those numbers.
Yeah,
And
well,
you know that there will be impact.
so, right.
So to cart one, say there's no impact, and that's how we're basing these numbers on, and you know that there will be impact.
So, yeah, so let me kind
That's where
of,
I'm
I know what you're
getting
saying.
confused.
No, I know what you're saying. So basically, it's not to say that the solar arrays and wind aren't producing electricity that goes on the grid, they are. It's just when PJM comes up with their, you know, how much energy they need, they can't include them in their calculations because if they can't count on it. And so if, like I said, if you're, you know, need a megawatt, or you forecast a megawatt of wind and solar, or, you know, wind for a day and solar, you know, at one point in time in the day, and you don't get that output, the, you know, it's cloudy that day, or the wind doesn't blow that day, but our data says for the last 50 years, it always is going to be that day, but it wasn't. Then you don't have that output that you're relying on, and if you can't pull from another grid, or there's you know, a capacity issue somewhere else, you get too close to not having enough, and that's how you get a blackout.
So in other words, the thought process of not including those was based on the fact of the demand that you're seeing compared now to what it once was several years ago?
It's more,
with the increase in data centers and things of that nature?
yeah, and maybe this is a kind of another way to explain it. It is this past summer, when we're talking natural gas, and this is kind of switching gears a little bit here, but when we're talking natural gas, generally the profile over the last decades has been, you know, gas prices go up in the winter because there's a lot of use for heating and so forth, and in the summer there's a dip in the pricing because there's just not enough, there's not any demand for it, because natural gas is basically used for heat. Now, manufacturing demand and things like that, but generally that doesn't move the dial like heating load does.
Sure.
That sort of changed a little bit, to where we actually have not seen that kind of dip in the summer, and actually have seen gas prices rise a little bit because we're using that gas now to fuel electric generation. And that's reflected in storage reports and things like that. And so last year, we saw a pretty significant dip in the summertime. I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was probably July or August. And I thought, and gas pricing came down one day, and I went into our natural gas analyst office, and I said, "This is strange. You know, why today? What's happening? Why is it dropping?" And he said, "Well, it's been really sunny and really warm, and so the solar piece of this is pumping like crazy right now, and those electrons are going onto the grid, and so generation is coming from these solar fields, so we don't need the gas fuel generation at this point because solar is putting off so much electricity." So the solar is still working, and so the gas price actually fell. So the solar is still working, going down to the grid. PJM's just saying we can't use it in our calculations because we don't know that it's gonna be sunny that day necessarily. So to predict intermittent generation is to be able to predict the weather more or less. And so they're going to keep evaluating that, and it will be part of the profile going forward. I'm certain of that. They just have to figure it out. And so that will happen over time. I'm confident in that. It's just when is the question. But the increase in data center and demand is the major driver of the increase. But what doesn't help is the replacement of coal with intermittent generation hasn't helped the capacity side of things because it's intermittent.
Right.
Does that help you a little bit? It's just, it's kind of complicated, but it all comes down to, it sounds silly to say, but the reason you can't rely on intermittent generation is because you can't predict the weather. And you know, if you could probably make a few bucks doing that. So with that understood, we can kind of go into the RFP results a little bit. So what you see in front of you, commissioners, here is that we have 67 counties that participate in the facilities program, and we split them into 3 groups. It's basically small, medium, and large. Group 1 is the small group. And if you look at the second chart here, you'll see the small accounts, are all under 700,000 kilowatt hours. 66 counties have, accounts under 700,000 kilowatt hours, and there are 3,800 meters accounting for, just under 193 gigawatt hours, or 193 million kilowatt hours is another way to say that. Group 2 is the medium size. It's between 700,000 and 4 million. 48 counties participating, have meters of that size, and there are 169 total meters and 254.5 gigawatt hours total. That's actually, the second group is actually the largest per kilowatt hour group or kilowatt hour group that we have. And then the large group is meters that are over 4 million, not many counties, 10 counties with large meters that size, 21 total meters in the program. And then you see the total numbers there, just over 4,000 total meters and 615.2 million kilowatt hours or gigawatt hours. Group 1, we have a fixed price pricing structure through Dynegy at just over 8 cents per kilowatt hour. And so the majority of your meters, and if you look on the second page here, I'm looking to try to find, there we go. So actually all of your meters are going to be that fixed 8046 price. Because you don't have a medium or large size currently.
046.
08.
0846.
0846,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So come May, you'll get notices from Dynegy saying that there'll be a switch to, from your current, although your current supplier may be no, it's 3 point, I think. So you'll get a notice from the utility saying you're switching to Dynegy at this 8 cent, just over 8 cent number. When you get those notices, don't do anything. And actually, it might be better if you send an email to, I don't know, if your bills don't all come here, do they? They go to different departments?
Yeah, they come here.
All of them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Well then, when you get those notices, you can ignore them. It's a notice that the utility has to send out, because this we want this change to happen. What happens sometimes in some counties, if the bills go to different departments, somebody will look at it and think, oh, we didn't ask for this change, and call and opt out of it. Then you're back in the utility, and we gotta try to get it back in, enrolled and so forth. So, if all the bills come here, then that's great.
I think they all come here.
Then that makes things easy. Then, as long as you guys know, you'll get this notice, just ignore it. All it is letting you know that this change is happening. That'll probably come in April, because the change will be happening in May. The second and third group I'll go over, even though you don't have any counties or meters in it, I'll just go over it quickly with you. The supplier that won the second and third groups is CPV Energy. Their price structure is capacity pass-through. And the reason that we went capacity pass-through instead of all-inclusive pricing is because these are larger users, and a lot of counties do efficiency projects. And the nice thing about capacity pass-through is if you're doing an efficiency project, new HVAC, renovation of a building, everything is becoming more efficient, not less efficient. And so if you have a fixed rate contract, your capacity number is based on your a lot of things, but your previous load profile. And so if you sign a fixed rate contract and you do that project while that fixed rate contract is in place, you won't see the benefit until the end of that contract and the beginning of the next one. Whereas in capacity pass-through pricing structure, the capacity number changes on a monthly basis. And so it will recognize those efficiency projects and the benefits to those on a month-to-month going forward. So in other words, you get to see the efficiency projects, the benefit to those in real time in a capacity pass-through pricing structure. And for the larger facilities, that's a significant amount of money. The smaller facilities doesn't really have the same benefit because a lot of these 3,800 meters are like pumps. And you know, it's just pretty insignificant. Whereas it can be real money, for group 2 and 3. So no action needed, just kind of coming in to update you on the facility side of things. I know we talked about all this with aggregation, but wanted to make sure to keep you in the loop with what's going on. And if you have any questions, I'm, you know, happy to answer.
So again, we're looking at, group 1 for us.
Correct.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're looking at the rate offer dollars per kilowatt hour, 0.08046.
Correct. Correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong, where we're at right now, Bob.
I think you guys have a capacity pass-through structure, so that currently, I can double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's where it is, and I want to say it was like in the 5 or 6 cent range.
I was thinking 6.
Yeah.
Low 6.
Yeah, so, and I'll double check this and send you a note here. But I think it's probably going to end up being pretty close to where you are, maybe it's slightly more expensive.
Okay.
But I'll double check that and email you just to make sure. Any other questions on reasoning behind, or questions on the RFP itself, or, you know, the increase in capacity or anything?
We appreciate you coming in, Bob. Truly.
Thanks, Commissioners. No, I appreciate you having me.
So the odds are for the future, there's gonna be more data centers and more increase.
That's a great question, Commissioner. So here's kind of.
Let's say there's more data centers now. I'll go backwards. There's more data centers now than what there were 5 years ago.
Without question.
So I'm sure 5 years, just like Tim said, just like 5 years from now, there'll be much more.
Sure. Now what'll happen, and what we're seeing is that PJM is not going to let them connect to the grid. So basically what they're telling these data centers is if you want electricity, you're gonna have to create your own. So what's happening is these big data centers are building generation plants next to the data centers to fuel the data center. Now, why that's a good thing is because what'll happen is PJM will look at these data centers, they'll look at the generation station next to it that's fueling the electricity, and when PJM looks at it and says, hey, you know what, you can stand on your own, then they'll allow them to connect to the grid. And the thought process is they will build the generation stations, usually probably natural gas fueled, large enough to where they have excess capacity. And that excess capacity they can sell back onto the grid at that point. So then you kind of flip the dynamic there a little bit from, you know, adding to the demand to actually adding to the supply.
To a certain extent, probably as time goes on, that will diminish.
Well, right, because the data centers will get bigger, that's true. But that's kind of where we see relief, hopefully. There are no guarantees, but the question is, how long is that gonna take? And that's a good question. Because, you know, 2.5 years to retrofit a coal plant to natural gas. You know, if you're moving really fast, maybe you can build a natural gas fueled generation plant in 2.5 years. So, 5 years would be great. I think that's aggressive. Maybe 7 years. I would be disappointed if we don't have some sort of relief in 10 years. But, the future is uncertain. And here's the other side of it too, you know, these chips that they're making for the data centers can be more efficient too. That would be a huge help. Because if they don't need as much energy, then all of a sudden we don't have the demand anymore, you know, the demand we thought we'd need. So you know.
It's right now, volume.
Sure, exactly.
Lord, yeah.
Now, the good thing is they're not, you know, supposedly, they're not gonna let these data centers connect to the grid. So, in theory, they won't be pulling anymore. But there are projects that are already there, and there are probably projects that have already been slated to connect that they, you know, they can't pull the rug out at this point. But, yeah, the future is uncertain, we'll say.
Just like everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Commissioners, thanks for your time, that's all I have.
Yeah,
perfect.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Have another meeting.
Thanks, Commissioner. Good to see you.
Yep, thank you.
Good to
Take
see
care,
you.
Mom.
Thanks for the questions. Thank you, Commissioner.
Do you have any extra of those handouts?
Sure.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'll get you a card. As you can probably surmise, this is very complicated stuff.
Yes. Thanks.
Yeah, but just shoot me an email or give me a call if you need anything. Have a good afternoon, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir.
As always, if you need anything, give me a call.
Out that way, so.
Thank you.
Yes. I figured out there's only one way out and one way
Yeah.
in, so take care. Have a good one. Good to see you. Thank you.
Yes.
Have a good afternoon.
Yes, I'm there.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, I guess you wanna discuss the one on Ohio MOU?
Yes.
Okay. What I can gather, I've put together, research to basically all the documents I could find out everything from the history of it. It would appear that, this is all from the opiate settlement, obviously. One of the things I did see, and I wanted to know, is that they disperse this to regions, which you're part of, you're the chairman of the region for us. Basically, then that region basically gives us our proceeds, which right now I think we have in a line item that Mike set up, which is fine. I see nothing, at least from what I've read, that has any restrictions on a timeline on it, meaning it's forever. Once it's given to you, if it takes eternity to spend it, it takes eternity. It also puts uses on it. In other words, it's gotta be tied, and it's very clear, it has to be tied to promoting evidence-based substance abuse prevention strategies, or evidence-based substance use disorders and treatment. In other words, that's luckily that, or decrease the oversupply of illicit opiates, which means you could use it maybe for drug buy monies, because you're trying, as law enforcement, to reduce that on the street. Again, tied to drugs. Support recovery from addiction services performed by qualified, appropriate licensed providers. Now, again, it deals with substance abuse. You know, basically mental health, giving it away to mental health without a tough substance abuse tie-in, I don't think is permitted. And the other, one of the conditions, they say they want it to be fact-proven, meaning evidence-based, not just some witch doctor, but, you know, some sort of substance treatment that has been recognized and it has maybe some results, good or bad, doesn't have to be necessarily positive and high percentages. So you gotta restrict it. I've looked over what we've done, the you created what I understand a subcommittee, which from reading the notes and stuff, is consisting of certain individuals that's tied in with your recovery court, or not recovery court, but basically the corrections committee. That's fine, I mean, what you set them up for is to give you recommendations.
Right.
You would be the disperser. What I understand is they're not meeting very well. So the point is, easy made, easy destroyed. I mean, there's nothing requiring that this subcommittee be done, other than you did it, because you felt those people had the, let's say, the opportunity to see the problem firsthand, which of course they do. Unfortunately, it's not a high priority evidently to meet. They were supposed to set up bylaws supposedly in 2024. It said at some meeting, I think it was May of 24. I see no bylaws. Now, I'm not saying they don't exist, but I didn't see any of the documentation. I don't know if they even met in 2024 and made the bylaws. They did issue a contract. I have a copy of a contract they gave to someone to sit on the board. My contract differs from what obviously got executed. But, you know, again, that person's sitting on the board and I don't see where there's a copy of it. I see no meeting or minutes that anybody ever met in 2025 that I can see. It says here, there was notes in the corrections board that they awarded a contract, but again, that's all they did that I can see in 2025. There's no meeting as far as disbursement. There has been evidence that there was phone calls made, that supposedly something got done on a phone call and disbursement made. Any subcommittee of you folks is subject to sunshine law. I'm gonna make that very clear. They have to, you cannot meet and do it on a telephone, on a prompted notice. You have to have notice to sunshine law. So in the future, any committee we make, we want to make sure they understand that. If this committee isn't gonna do its job, all I can suggest to you gentlemen is maybe you revamp. I'm not saying that idea isn't good, because you need guidance. But maybe get some better stakeholders in it that wanna do the job. I can't speak for the individual judgeships, but they have the manpower, but evidently not the desire to meet, is all I can read from this. I don't know. There's not, my department was suggested being able, we were never invited to be part of this committee. There is the corrections meetings, I very seldom attend them because all I find that they're kind of worthless, because all they ever do is talk about statistics and how they're doing this and doing that, but there's no real guidance that I get from those meetings. This one I think is needed. 90% I'd say of my criminal cases do have some sort of drug problem, i.e. they're either drunk, or they're on drugs, or they're doing a burglary to finance the drugs. I mean, a lot of our crime does have this issue. Unfortunately for us in Hardin County, we don't have a lot of caregivers who reside in Hardin County. I'm not sure there's a drug alcohol counselor who resides in Hardin County. Everything we get is from the outside brought in. We're part of always some district because they won't place anybody personally here. This money though, luckily doesn't have time limits on it, so it can be there as a source. Substance abuse doesn't necessarily, the way I read it, didn't say it just had to be opioids. So the way I read anything, chemical dependency, substance abuse would be, I consider relevant. So you could even use it on somebody that maybe got a DWI under alcohol. Again, that's a chemical. If alcohol is discovered today, it'd be a class 2 depressant. But unfortunately, society accepts it, therefore it's not scheduled. We just regulate it. So all I can say is I don't have any uncertainty other than trying to put together my outline. We do have to watch, and again, I like the fact that you're controlling the disbursements.
Right.
At least you authorize it. It says here that an employee of the common judge will be paying invoices, but I assume those invoices have been approved by somebody.
They've come back here and we've done resolutions.
All right, then the backup invoice,
Yeah.
all right, that's fine.
Just
I mean,
kind of recommending to us.
but they should give you some detail too. I mean, be able to make how, if they're giving you something, you wanna make the permitted use test, that it fits these permitted uses. That's all I can tell you, it needs to be revamped.
Right, I think we come
Pardon?
agree to that, yeah. Talking, you know, I think we've decided, or talked that it needs revamped, redone. The judges even brought up a conflict of interest maybe of who's recommending to us actually money coming back to their court. So that was one of his thoughts. It's the people sitting on who's advising us.
The source of money, I don't see a
Money.
conflict in the sense as my judges, historically, I'm not saying what the current people are doing.
Yeah.
I've always solicited funds from the public, like Methodist churches giving money, private citizens. The source of money comes in to help their recovery courts, from any sources. This is again, a source that's been given here for this limited purpose. The fact that it comes from this source versus a private source, I don't see why that creates a conflict. Other than the only conflict is to make sure it's done with the permitted uses.
Good.
That's where I guess you come in, and if it doesn't fit the test,
Right.
or frankly, maybe we could prepare a form so that when they send you a bill, they have to check box one of these permitted uses.
Yeah.
So they are making a statement to you that it's for this permitted use, and therefore you know you're in compliance with the funds. Otherwise, unless they give you some specifics, I don't know how you read between the lines.
Good.
Like anything, it's not just pigeonholed, in other words, like granting compensation salary to an individual sitting on a board, that's not a bad idea. Is that directly for opiate use? Well, indirectly you'd say, because it makes the board exist so they can work with these people in one court. I don't know what else you want me to tell you, I mean, I guess.
No, that's kind of
That's what we wanna know.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah.
All right, Michelle, you put me up with, we'll hit them up for a public record, so we're right now trying to comply with your request and put it together.
Yep.
We don't necessarily, you asked for an organizational chart, we don't necessarily have an organizational chart, but we do have at least something in minutes to reflect who the committee members are, so we're gonna give you that. It's not a chart form though, but it's nevertheless, it does show the composition. At least at the moment, unless it's disbanded or something. So we're gonna try to respond to you on that.
Yeah, that's no problem.
If there's any way I can help you, let me know. May have to think differently. Obviously, a lot of our caretakers locally, like Coleman's and stuff, you know, they're here today, some of them move on, some don't. We lost some new ones come in. That's an always rotating wheel.
Yeah.
Somebody's on board or somebody jumps off.
Okay.
And that makes things more difficult.
Pardon?
It makes things more difficult to be able
I
to.
concur. I mean, they're running it from a business point of view. Are they getting enough action, enough answers? Can they justify putting people here that people want to work here? Unfortunately, we always get whoever they're told that come to Hardin County. Usually that's dictated by the organization where you are on the pecking order in the organization. If you're a low man on the pole, you're going Hardin County. Most of them are based out of their parent counties. If I can help you in any way, fine. I think maybe reorganizing of the committee might be in order, thinking I'll just side with the courts. Courts are fine. I think maybe public participation, maybe some clergy, because clergy see a lot of this, I'm sure too, so maybe somebody from the clergy. I don't have a problem, I devote one of my prosecutors every week. Siobhan sits on the recovery court, no pay, has been part of her desire and job to do that every week. So, we do have somebody that's involved at least in the one recovery court. And that's the upstairs one. So, we don't have a problem working with you or being part of this. Any other questions you have, just get a hold of me. But, just take away from this, you can disband the committee if it's not working, say, we're gonna go another direction and revamp it. I'm not saying some of the players on it are still good players, they may still wanna do it.
Well, I think we're gonna look at some other options, but we haven't yet, because we wanted to talk to you.
Just remember two things, just, you don't have time limit on it, so it's yours forever. Second, just do it in terms of permitted use. What I think I'll do, I'll have Katie make up a form with this permitted use, it's like a checkbox system.
Yeah.
I think
Anybody
that's a good
submitting you
idea.
an invoice
I
has to say, hey, which one of these things does it fall under? And
That's
then
a
you
good
can
idea.
question on it if you don't agree with it.
Good idea.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. A good idea.
Call me if you need it.
Okay.
Thanks, Brad.
Yep.
Thank you, Brad.
I see the Rich got you. Rich gets every one of you guys.
Yeah.
Are there any concerns with the money that's already been dispersed?
No, we've done resolutions on this.
No, everything's legal.
Everything was,
We went through the proper procedures for that.
goes through the proper procedures of review, approve.
When did those resolutions come, when were those taken?
You'd have to ask, I don't know off the top of my head.
They kinda,
I think there's only 3 of them, so it's not that.
some were last year and some one this year, maybe, in January.
For the Rise Up recovery?
I'm sorry?
Oh, yeah, well, I guess that would have been last year.
Mike wouldn't have, Mike the auditor wouldn't have paid them if he didn't have the resolution from us, so they've been paid, so.
So once we see it on the green bar, we review it, approve, and it's paid.
That's it.
That's good.
Okay.
You're done?
Yeah, we're done. That's. Is your
Tori's
pen?
gone all the time.
Is this your pen?
No, no, I keep all my stuff.